Shalom friends, this is Eris Hassan, and today I'm going to do a teaching through the map of Israel. I believe it's important to understand Israel through the map. It will help us later on with our tours around the land. Well, let us start off with the borders of Israel. Toward the west, the border of Israel is with the Mediterranean Sea, as you guys could see around here. To the south, Israel borders with the country of Egypt. That's a long border, around the 208 kilometers, 129 miles. But still, it's not the longest border that we share with the country. That would be the country of Jordan. Let's see, continues all the way here. That's around 309 kilometers, 192 miles. Northern to that, we board with Syria, 92 kilometers, 57 miles. And way to the north, Israel borders with Lebanon, 79 kilometers, around 49 miles. The size of Israel is not that big. Some suggest that Israel is more or less the same size of New Jersey. Yeah, from north to south, around 555 kilometers, which is 345 miles. From east to west, at the widest point around here, that's around 113 kilometers, which is 71 and a half miles. As you guys can see, Israel is not a big country, but so much lies within it. So let's look into the land of Israel. Well, as we start from the south, I could say that around 60% of Israel's territory is in fact a desert area. Desert that is known as the Negev or Nagba. You define a desert by the lack of water, lack of rain, less than 200 milliliters of rain a year. And that's exactly what exists down south. Today, you do have settlements, you have towns, kibbutzim, social shared communities, and of course cities down south due to technology, irrigation of water, but that wasn't the case in ancient times. In the center of Israel, we could see two chains of mountains called Judea, and over here, Samaria. Some people call them the West Bank. The West Bank of the Jordan River that flows toward the eastern border of Israel. Judea holds three main cities. Of course, the first biggest city in Israel, Jerusalem, the holiest city in the world for both Jews and Christians. One of the four holiest cities for the Jewish people. Southern to Jerusalem we have Bethlehem, and southern to Bethlehem we have Hebron. Hebron as well is the holy city for the Jewish people, because in Hebron is where our fathers are buried, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Two other important and holy cities for the Jewish people is called Cepheid, where the mystical books of Judaism were written toward the end of the 15th century, 1492 and onwards. And eventually they were edited, and you guys perhaps know them as the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. And Tiberias, a city over here where Judaism has evolved throughout the years to what it is today. Samaria is also part of the West Bank, and both Judea and Samaria are called or known as the disputed territories, and some even say the Palestinian territories. In any case of peace between Israel and the Palestinians, this would be part of the Palestinian state. So you do have a bigger population of Arab Muslims there, of Palestinians, but you also have Jewish settlements there, Jewish existence. Both in Judea and in Samaria, you have biblical sites, of course. You have the areas of Sebastia around here. Sebastia, which was the capital of the northern kingdom in ancient times. You have Shechem, what is known as Nablus, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob settled at times. You have the area of Shiloh, where the tabernacle existed and settled for 369 years. You have the Mount of Blessing around here and the Mount of Cursing. You have so many amazing and biblical sites. This is truly the origin of our settling here in the land. As we head western to the mountains of Judea and Samaria, we reach the shoreline that is known as the Shephelah. And over here you have the majority of the Jewish settling here in the land. And that makes sense because in the middle of the 19th century, there was a rise of anti-Semitism in Eastern Europe. And the Jews were pushed out. A lot of Jews fled to different countries around the world, but there was a big portion of Jews that had their heart and mindset toward their holy country, holy land of Israel. I need to add that at that time the land was controlled by the Ottomans from the year 1516 until the end of the First World War here in the land of Israel around December 1917. So the Ottomans, in this time, in the middle of the 19th century, their situation was not that great. They were in desperate need for money, for cash, and they were willing to sell land here in the land of Israel, known as Palestine back then. I need to add that Palestine was not a country, but it was a region, yeah? They were willing to sell land to the highest bidder. Now this land over here by the shoreline was known as bad land, wasteland, swamplands, all around here. So the Jews said, no problem, we'll buy it. And the Jews got donations from rich Jews around Europe that put in money to buy this piece of land for the Jewish people. And then the Jews came from Eastern Europe and settled here. And as they settled here, they worked very, very hard to dry the swamps. Eventually, they made it possible. All this area, all this swampland, eventually was cleaned and was made good for settling. And in our new time, in the new age, this is where the Jews settled here in the land, a land that was bought with good money to be settled in. And that's why most of our population today, the Jewish population in the land, is still around here. True to 2020, the population of Israel is a bit over 9 million. We're talking about 75% Jews, a bit over 6.5 million Jews here in the land, 19% Muslims, Arab Israelis, of course. You have minorities such as Christians, only 2.5%. You have Baha'is, Ahmadim, Cherkess, and other minorities that are welcomed here in the land and have freedom of religion. Here, around the shoreline, around 3.5 million Jews live here, and the rest are scattered unevenly all around the land. By the way, down south, southwest, we have the Gaza Strip. In any peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinian, Gaza as well will be part of the Palestinian state. By the way, this is quite interesting. In the time of the War of Independence that started on the 30th of November 1947, the population of the Jews here in the land were 600,000. If you guys remember the population of the tribes of Israel exiting Egypt, Bible gives us a number, exiting Egypt and entering the promised land. Yes, folks, 600,000 Israelites. Coincidence? I don't think so. Let's continue. Northern to the shoreline, we have the area of the Carmel Mountain right over here that eventually connects somewhere around here to Samaria. Yeah, to Samaria around here. As we leave the mountains of the Carmel, we head into the Galilee area. This area is known as the Galilee, that is divided into three parts. First part, I call it the Central Galilee area, right around here, where we have a lot of fascinating biblical historical sites. One of them you guys could see right in the center is Nazareth. Nazareth, name, the main junction of the land known as the Jezreel Valley over here. You guys know it as the Valley of Armageddon, and a lot of other biblical sites. Toward the west, we have here the Western Galilee area, a very interesting area as well, very, very fertile, that holds a lot of archaeology, but perhaps not the archaeology that we're looking for, more from the Crusader period. And if we dig deeper in earlier times, maybe archaeology from the time of the Phoenicians living here in the land, the sea people that settled along the shoreline, and the eastern or northern Galilee area right over here, up from the border of Lebanon, heading all the way to the Sea of Galilee, right over here. Toward the east of the eastern Galilee area, we have the Golan Heights. The heights toward the east of the Sea of Galilee, the borders with Syria, a territory that was gained after the 6-Day War, 1967. Now, Israel lies in Asia. Down south here, that's Africa, right? Egypt and so on. Middle East, of course, part of the Middle East as well. But as we continue up north, well, that's the border between Asia to Europe, more so toward the west. And Israel, throughout history, was a bridge between continents. A lot of trade passed through the land of Israel, but still trade exists today as well. For we have three main harbors in the land of Israel. We have the harbor of the city of Haifa. By the way, it's the third biggest city in Israel. Of course, the biggest one is Jerusalem, with a population that is close to 1 million. Second biggest city is Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv used to be the biggest city until the 6-Day War, 1967, and then after gaining more land through the war, the territory of Jerusalem became bigger and bigger, making it the biggest city in Israel. And today, after that, Tel Aviv is known as the economic city of Israel. And Haifa is the third biggest city in Israel. So Haifa holds a big harbor, a lot of factories that are built close to Haifa to cut cost of the transportation. And we have another big harbor in the city of Ashdod. These two harbors connect uh, to Europe, trade to Europe. But we also have another harbor down south, the city of Eilat, which the harbor is built upon the Gulf of Aqaba, also known as the Gulf of the Red Sea, for that is the Red Sea. Why are they called Red Sea exactly? Well, some suggest it's because that is the ancient Sea of Reed that the tribes of Israel crossed through. I don't think so. I believe that the name, the Red Sea, was given due to the red mountains that exist here. Red mountains, we know it in scriptures as Adumia. Adom in Hebrew is translated to the word red color. Red mountains toward the east. The sea beside it is called the Red Sea. Makes more sense to me. By the way, some people believe that that's where Esau, the brother of Isaac, settled, and that Dumians are the descendants of Esau, right over there. Eilat is also mentioned in scriptures. Eilat, or the harbor of Eilat, was built by Solomon when he connected to Africa and Ethiopia. A lot of quarries around here, especially of copper, and copper is very important in ancient times. You mix copper with tin or other metals, you get bronze, and bronze is already a metal that you could use to build tools or weapons. Very important in ancient times, and there was good trade between Solomon and the kingdom of Israel to the people of Africa. From here, he would go to Ethiopia, and he would connect and build a relationship with Queen Sheba. But ancient Eilat is not where it lies today in Israel. It's around here in the city of Aqaba, that is in Jordan today. That's ancient Eilat. So I think it's important also to talk about the water situation here in the land, because in biblical times we read that the border of the land of Israel was from Dan to Beersheba. This is more or less Dan, where the Dan tribes eventually settled after they were moved due to the battles between them and the Philistines. Well, the original Dan tribe settled around here. Yeah. So from Dan to Beersheba, right around here, that would be the territory of Israel around here. Well, minus the Philistines area. And some other territories around the eastern side, right? Somewhere like this. This would be the territory of the land in ancient times. Southern from Beersheba, less water, harder to live in, and you mostly would have the nomadic people roaming the land. Today, the situation is different, of course. We have desalination factories, we have a lot of technology that allows us to bring water to every point in Israel. From 1964, we started pumping water from the Sea of Galilee and then leading it throughout the whole land of Israel, even toward the desert area. Our first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, he had a dream of bringing the desert alive, and so he did. Today, all around the desert area, you have cities, you have towns, kibbutzim, and others. I don't think the amount that David Ben-Gurion wished, but still, it's alive and it's doing very, very well. David Ben-Gurion, he had a a vision, knowing that more and more Jews will return back to the land from all over the world. So it was crucial for him to hold on to the desert area, which is 60% of our territory today. And when the newcomers, the new Jews come, they'll be able to settle in the land, and there won't be that problem. The water, the good water in the land exists. It existed in ancient times. It exists today, although, as I said, today we rely on it less due to the desalination factories. But up here, around here, we have the highest mountain in Israel called the Hermon Mountain, close to 6,500 feet above sea level, around 2,130 meters above sea level. We have a nice amount of snow falling in the winter time, and when the snow melts, it flows upon the water, upon the mountains, and seeps through the rock, comes out as natural springs, and eventually flows to 3 rivers. And then the 3 rivers, they flow to the upper Jordan River. And then it flows to the Sea of Galilee. So the Sea of Galilee is a freshwater lake that gets most of its water from the melted snow from up above, from the north. Also water flowing from the west, water flowing from the east. The Sea of Galilee gathers the water. It's the lowest freshwater lake in the world, around 200 meters below sea level, 600 feet below sea level. And then from the Sea of Galilee, there's from the southern part of it, there is another opening to a river. This is the lower Jordan River, as you guys know from scripture, that flows from the Sea of Galilee, from the Sea of Galilee all the way down to the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea, which is the lowest point on earth, 419 meters below sea level, which is around 1,260 feet below sea level, the lowest point on earth, collects the water, but no exit here. So through the years, it's been filled with salt and with minerals. You cannot drink the water of the Dead Sea. But the minerals here are used for so many things. We farm the minerals from the Dead Sea. So along the eastern side, you do have fresh water along the eastern border of Israel. Also, in the central part of Israel, we have the 2 chains of mountains of Samaria and Judea, and this is limestone. All limestone. So when it rains, the water seeps through the rock and is contained inside the rock as groundwater, or it comes out as natural springs. For instance, here in the area of Ein Gedi. Yeah. Thing is that the limestone also flows underground toward Beersheba. Although Beersheba is in the desert area, and when you go there, what you see is sand. If you dig deeper through the sand, you reach the limestone, and then the water that flows through the mountains passes through Beersheba, and then you could get to it. That's why people have been settling in Beersheba throughout history. That's why it was possible to settle in Beersheba in biblical times. That's when we read about the well, the digging of well, the battles for the wells. Beersheba. And of course, in the western border of Israel, throughout the shoreline, we have groundwater. When it rains, the water seeps through the ground, and then it flows to a low point. In our case here, toward the shoreline, sea level. The thing is, when the fresh water flows underground and hits the semi-salty seawater, it does not mix, it pushes back. So you don't have to dig too deep along the shoreline to get to the groundwater, and there you have it. That's why throughout the western border around here, we have remainders of ancient wells from biblical and historical times. So folks, I hope this helps you a bit more understand the land of Israel that we're going to be touring all around. And see you next time. Enjoy. Study the map. See you later.